Hey guys, welcome back to CharisMarieTv. I am Charis Marie. Today's video is different from what I typically do on my channel. Typically I'm like doing a reaction or playing with makeup, something like that, but today I just wanted to just sit down and have an open-ended conversation about my experience with race and racism over the past 3 years. If you don't know, I have lived in the UK for the last 3 years. I was completing my bachelor's degree in the UK, and yeah, I wanted to have this conversation not a couple months ago when racism was trending, because as a black woman, a black person living in a predominantly white space, racism isn't something that's trending. It's something that is everyday. It almost becomes the mundane because it's something that you see in the most trivial and the most big ways. It's something that you deal with all the time. It doesn't just happen once in a while. It's something that you deal with in your environment. So I kind of wanted to do this video to talk about my experiences with racism and kind of get like a second opinion, because often for me when things happen that I feel they're racist, I'm just like, is this really racist, or am I being hypersensitive as a black person? So for background and context, I might be a bit more fortunate in the sense that I am from the Caribbean. I live in a predominantly black environment. I went to school for majority of my education and I hadn't been in class with a white student before. I've met white people at church and I've become friends with them. They're some of my good friends, but I've never had like outright racism to me happen to me directly. And especially not in the way that the members of the African diaspora in America would experience. The way they will have to raise their children is probably much different to how I might have to raise my children in the BVI, in the Caribbean, because here we are the judges, we are the officers, we make up the majority here. So that's why for me, I can't speak for race in the same way as someone who was born in America or born in the UK or somewhere where white is the majority. Like I said, I moved to the UK 3 years ago, 2017, to start my bachelor's, and I've since finished my bachelor's, so I'm here now back at home. In that time, I have encountered professors who in my head I'm like, is this person has to be racist, right? Because I mean, honestly, I was not one of the best when it came to being vocal about injustices that I felt happen, or little microaggressions that happen while in classes. I mean, my first day on campus, I was like, okay. Because when I came to campus late because we had just had a hurricane here, and basically I was supposed to be on campus from like the 25th of September. I couldn't get onto campus till about the 14th or 17th of October. So I was behind when I got in to campus. And I was kind of lost. I didn't really know everything that needed to happen. So I remember going to register for my classes. Like I had to get things done in a certain time because I think like the 14th of October was like the deadline to like register and fix your classes or whatever. I mean, the school was being very lenient towards me because they understood the situation at the time. I go to this office after like asking directions. I go to the office to, you know, get these things rectified. Like, these are the classes that I want, this is what I want to do, here is my slip. Like I have to go to the office to confirm it. I get to the office, and when I get there, there's a male attendant there and there's some other people there. The male attendant, he watches me walk into the room, and I stand up at the counter and I just wait. I say good afternoon, because in Caribbean culture, specifically BVI culture, you say good afternoon, good morning, good night when you enter a room, especially if it's a room of older people. You say good afternoon, good morning. That's what you do, right? So I get there, I stand, and this man sees me. I don't know what the protocol is, so I'm just standing there waiting for somebody to acknowledge me. He sees me, he's pretending to be busy at his desk on a computer, type, and I'm just standing there and I'm looking. There's a bell there, But for me as a black person in this white space, it's just something that I naturally do. I check myself based on the room that I go in. So I walk twice as hard to make sure that I'm not coming up as aggressive or being annoyed. So you learn patience. You just learn to wait until somebody comes to you. You don't approach people because they could say you're being too like stand up, like, you know, those kind of things. So I'm just standing there and I'm waiting. I wait for about like 2 to 3 minutes, maybe almost 5 minutes. I stand up there, and because I'm trying to go through my bags and make sure I have everything that I need, and I'm just standing there waiting, and I'm looking at this man. He's looking at me, nodding, and then in comes like another student right behind me. She is white. Instantaneously, before this guy gets up out of it, like before this girl gets into the building, she opens the door and he stands up. When he gets up, I realize he is like the receptionist. He is the person who is supposed to be handling students and all kind of things. I guess there was like 12 o'clock that I went, so there's somebody else that could deal with the situation, but he's the person at this moment who is supposed to handle all of these problems. Before this girl gets in, he greets us like, "Hey love, how can I help you?" Whatever, and he goes straight to her. Mind you, I saw him see me standing there for the amount of time that I stood there, and he ignored me. He took his time and he walked slowly with this girl, and very bubbly, very cheerful. He answers all of her questions. Though I have been standing there all the time, he deals with this girl, and then after he finishes with her, he watches her pack her stuff, go out, and he says, "Can I help you?" And I'm just like, you could see the switch in his, and in my head I'm just like, no, this is like my probably my 3rd day in Newcastle, my 2nd day on campus, and I'm just like, no, right? Like this cannot be real. So anyways, and again, even though I should be frustrated because I stood here all this time, you dealt with somebody before me, and then you change your attitude when you come to talk to me, I should be a little antsy and on edge, but I can't, or I don't, because then I will perpetuate this idea that, you know, black women are aggressive, when she acting like this, I don't want to have an attitude because then that further plays into this narrative that black people are X, Y, and Z, which is not the case. Like, as black, these are things I learned afterward. Like when I first got into university, I felt like I used to try to check myself to avoid racist behavior or racist ideologies being projected onto me. However, it is not black people's responsibility. We do not control racism. Okay, racism is something acted on against us. We are not the perpetuators of racism. Does that make sense? So it shouldn't matter how I act in that instance, especially because I wasn't acting at all. Doesn't matter how I should be treated, you know? So like I try to like be okay, cautious. I'm like, okay, hey, exactly X, Y, and Z. But he's a person who was like ill-treating me in that sense. I mean, that is very minuscule on the grand scheme of things. However, it happens, right? Anyways, that's just how life is. I get to my classes are registered or whatever, but you get to class and like you look at the makeup of your class and it is different. Okay, black people in tertiary academic spaces, the population of black people is minuscule in comparison to others. Okay, so I got into this class and at the time I didn't see like a single black person. Now this isn't my first encounter with classes. So before I got to my first big lecture, I had a seminar, and in that seminar it was just, there was one other black girl in that seminar. My first class, I remember it specifically. It was like an introduction to media studies seminar. I remember the professor, everything. I remember meeting this black girl. She sat down right next to me, and I guess like we were the only black people in the class. Well, a seminar, it's fine, right? So you assume you meet you have two black girls in this seminar group, you assume when you go to the lecture there may be at least 6, right? There are only 3 black people. Only 3 black people in this lecture theater of like 120 students, maybe 3 of us. And oftentimes I would be the only person there because they would decide they're not coming class that day or they will come late. You know, that's just how things are, and that's typically the makeup of all my classes. So there are people of color, there are Asian students, students of Indian descent, and like there are only 3 black students in my 4 CM modules in the lecture theaters. No, I say that to say this. This could have happened maybe a month and a half, couple weeks after I had a whole experience registering. The reason why I mentioned that there was only like 2 to 3 black people in this class, we are in what lecture was it? I feel like it was like an introduction to research methods class. And we have this professor. He is a cisgender, white, homosexual male, right? And I say that because I don't know if that helps with context, but when he describes himself, that's how he describes himself. Fine, right? We're doing this class about semiotics. Not really semiotics, but we're doing something with language and how language can be perceived, X, Y, and Z. My memory is failing me right now to exactly what the topic was. But he was talking about how language can be perceived differently based on the people you're talking to and the relationship those people have. And then trying to explain that point, he says, well, for like example, yeah, you know the word nigger. I'm like, what? This is a white man who he just dropped the N-word as an example for like to see how words have changed. I guess he was trying to say like in the black community the N-word was once as a word of like negativity, now it's a word of endearment, da 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 da. He didn't say it once, he said it at least twice. I feel like it was almost 3 times he used the word as an example. Now me as a black person, I don't even use the N-word like that. I refer to it as the N-word. I don't call my friends the N-word. I don't want to be called the N-word by anybody. Black, white, I don't care. If you're black and you want to use the word, that's fine, do you. But for me, I personally do not use the word. I just use it now as an example for y'all to understand. And I guess for him, that's the same thing what he did. He said like, he was like, poor choice of word, but you the word nigga. That's what he said. And he said it like 2 or 3 times. And on that day, there was not a single black person in class at the time. I was the only black person in class. If my memory is right, I was the only black person in that class. And I remember when he said it, everybody in the lecture theater was so uncomfortable and they were like side-eyeing me. Even the Asian students were like looking at me, and I felt it and it was uncomfortable. And in my head, I couldn't understand whether he was racist for saying it or whether he was racist for thinking it was okay for him to say it. Now, I understand the context he was trying to say it, but if he had just said the N-word alone, it would have been fine. But the fact that he said it more than once, publicly, on tape, because all lectures are recorded in that setting, in the presence of a black student, I felt uncomfortable. And I did my best not to react because, again, I lived those early years of my degree trying to be like, Caris, don't act X, Y, and Z, don't say X, Y, and Z, because you're trying not to you're trying not to perpetuate any stereotypes about Caribbean people, black people, etc. The next time we had the lecture, the other black girls came to the class and other Indian descent students, and they came in like a circle and they were talking about it. And they were like, oh my gosh, how he could say it, and da 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 da, and how he came to the chest. They heard it because we have recap sessions that replay lectures. So they heard it like through the tape. I was there to see him, hear him say it, and to have everybody watch me in class like, should we react? Do you react? No, I want to get up and leave because again, like I'm saying, I don't know if this person is racist because he said it or because he thought it was okay for him to say it, right? And you're like, Caris, well, why didn't you report X, Y, and Z? Remember the same little black girl I met in my first seminar? She was in this lecture as well. She was like all about course representatives, and she spoke about it, right? She went, she was like a course rep, so she went to the board and did something, and what happened? Nothing happened because I don't think it was perceived as a big issue because of the context in which it was saying. I mean, she tried to explain like what happened or what they were going to do, but to me, I just knew that nothing was going to come from it. Even before, even being in the UK for like barely months at that time, I knew nothing was going to come of it or anything. He still continued to teach us the same way. I don't remember there being a public apology about using the word. Maybe there was, but I don't remember one. If there was, then I'll have to like apologize for that. But I don't remember one, and I don't think I missed a class. I don't remember there being an apology for using the word. No, I said that to say she went and she spoke about it. The reason why I don't speak about it, like I said, I have a hard time being very vocal in those situations, but it made me feel uncomfortable as a black student, right? And like this is and the reason why I didn't want to say anything, because the class is so small, my name, my face is going to stick. Not so small, but like there's only 3 black people in a class, and I don't look like them. They don't look like me. And this man, he taught me first year, he taught me second year, he was the dissertation module leader in third year. Every year he has taught me, and it's just like, you know, I don't want to give. I mean, honestly, we have like, again, you have to think about where my head is coming from. Like I'm sure you all like seen those stories about like, you know, professors holding grudges against students and those things coming back to bite them in the end. So I didn't say anything about it because again, it's like what I could do, what I'm going to do. Exactly. So that situation happened, and every time he has like come to teach me afterward, I've always felt very uncomfortable and like just out of place in his classroom. But I do the work, I make the grades, I just come to get my degree and gone, right? So that's one. So in that instance, I mentioned a story to my friends, like, Caris, how you could let it happen? And I'm like, who is me? This is a man with a doctorate who is module leader, X, Y, in his head or whatever. Who am I in that situation? It was reported, and again, he taught me second year, third year, what exactly. But I want to take this point here in the middle just to say, even though I was never taught by a black person, I don't know how many black lecturers there were on my campus, but I could tell you I have never seen one, nor have I ever been taught by one. But in the space of being taught there, that was one bad professor, but I've had amazing ones. Like I have 3 lecturers specifically who, they're great. They are great. I still have to like write them thank you letters now that I'm finished my degree, because they have facilitated open conversations about race in classes. They've been amazing teachers. 3 younger teachers, they were responsible. They headed the race module that I studied, and because of a lot of the things that they taught / discussed in their classes, I was able to do my dissertation that spoke about racism in film, all of that kind of thing. So I'm saying that to say not every single professor on this campus or in the world is going to be like that, but my experiences, I love like those 3 professors specifically were amazing. Like any class that they do, I will take. Okay, like they're phenomenal teachers. So they have some really good ones, and then you have some you gotta be a little side eye too. But I want to put this in the middle and not in the end, just to like, you know, let y'all know. So anyways, moving to this next teacher. This happened in my 3rd year, and this one was a little interesting. This is a woman, a female teacher, white obviously, and she made it very apparent to us like throughout her teaching that she grew up in a communist type regime when she grew up. I don't know if that has anything to do with it, but she mentioned it a lot. Okay, so we have this teacher. She's the kind of teacher who's like, you know, I want you guys to talk to me and you can have very important conversations and I'm going to ask questions. Like, that's, is it offensive that I'm doing her accent? I'm sorry. But, you know, she talks about it. This is a, I don't want to say what class it is in case somebody comes and actually looks at this video. But, so yeah, so she's the kind of type, she like to ask questions after class finish, after she lectured or whatever, to have discussions in the class. She had a habit of going to specific students in the class. Now, I don't know if that's because she just knew them or just because she didn't want to, but very rarely did she engage with me and this one black girl I tell her about. Like, we get each other. Like, she's like my good friend. She's like probably the only like friend I made on my course. But not the point, right? I could tell you about how them students is. I probably gonna do another video about them students. Let's focus on teachers alone. But like, so yeah, so we in this class together. She rarely ever engaged with us. After like midterms, she started going around the class asking for questions, asking for like our input and those kind of things. So she started coming to us, and to us that was a bit strange because regularly she does not come to students like us. She, as in the black students, she don't really engage with us. We know that. And she could be a little put off fish sometimes, even when people do speak. It's like, I want my point to be right, like agree with me. It's like, I hear what you're saying, but agree with me. Is her kind of persona as a teacher, as a lecturer. And this one day she comes to us, she's like, you know, they say I don't engage with all the students. I guess this was after like the midterm kind of analysis in class. I mean, she was going over her own like analysis because, you know, students can critique and grade a teacher, grade a class. And she was like, you know, they say like I don't engage with everyone, so I'm going around the class to ask questions. And she came to us, she's like, do you ladies have anything to add? And we look at each other knowing how she don't be, and we're like, no, we don't. And then she's like, of course, I expected, typical. And she went, I said, wait, I was the confusion. I said, wait a minute. I said, wait a minute, because it's just that she said that, and I'm just like, no, man, this, cause what am I? Again, I have to check myself. I'm like, am I being hypersensitive as a black person, or is she trying to step? Anyways, come to our next. Move on. Like a couple weeks after, we have group assignments, or forced assignments for her is due, and we have to like talk. We have to ask her questions because our assignment at the time was very unclear, and being as copious and studical as I am, I want to make sure I ask all my questions, because once you ask the questions I get the answers. That's how you can perfect what they want for you as a student, right? So we decide, but not even we decide, she says, okay, we have this 20-minute intermission between our lecture. If you have questions, come down. When everybody comes down to ask their questions, we come down and we wait to speak to her. There are students who come after us, who just budge in the line, who came after us, were behind of us, and she dealt with them before she dealt with us. So that ultimately, we were the last ones in the line, right? The two of us, we weren't the last ones to come to talk to her, but we were the last ones in the line, the last people that she dealt with. There's a guy in front of us, white, she's talking to him, and she finishes with him. She glances over to us, looks to the front, and says, okay guys, I think it's time that we stand back into the lecture again. So I'm not supposed to feel that way. We waited there. We stood on the, listen, we were down on the lecture floor. And we stood there. She saw us and she's like, she looks at us and she turns back to the front of the lecture, say, okay guys, I think it's time we get back in the, we have some time going. And I watched my friend and we just had to laugh and walk away in embarrassment. Because we at the bottom of the lecture floor, we have to walk back up to our seats. Everybody see that she had talked to us, she acknowledged us, and she went right back to teaching. And from that moment, I said, Miss, we ain't got nothing to say to you. Whatever work I got to do, I'm going to do myself. Because you ain't come out here acting like I really need you. All you got to do is make my work, right? Because we stood there and we waited patiently. Students came after us. She talked to them. She talked for years and years and years with them. And then when it came to us, the last people who did not come into the line last, she turned to the class and said, okay, I think it's time to get back lecturing. And she didn't even make an attempt to say, okay, you two talk to me after class or anything like that. We just had to turn around and go back to our seat. And everybody in the class could see that she ain't dealing with me, especially after her whole typical, well, of course, I don't want to say. And I'm just like, you know what? I'm going to do my work. I am not dumb. I could read. I'm going to take the time and figure this out for myself. Because nobody going to make it look like, no. We submit this assignment. Like 2 weeks after we submit this assignment, she is being more warm to us as students. She's starting to look at us first. So what do you guys think? And she'll look to us first and she'll try to have conversations. And when we do speak, she'll say, oh, that's a really good point. How do you feel about X, Y, and Z? We get our grades back and we get, well, I didn't ask about her grade, but for me, I got a first, right? I got an 80 something at first. Don't ask about the UK grading system. That could be a different video if y'all want to understand. But, right, I got first class for it and the comment is like, oh, this is perfect, da 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 da, exclamation point, whatever, done. And in my head, I'm like, she was only being nice to us after she marked our work because we proved ourselves as students. I don't understand. And the thing is, she had to know it was us because we submitted with our names on it, whatever. And being the only black people in this class, our names look different to everybody. It looked different to all the Marys and Emilys. I'm not being racist. There were at least 4 Marys in that class. The reason why that upset me, not just because of how overtly racist it felt, but because it pulls on this notion that black people have to be exceptional, to be treated normal, so I shouldn't have to be like, oh, I'm an exceptional student or I'm intelligent, to be treated like normal, like a student. You come to teach me and regard me like everybody else. I shouldn't have to prove that like I'm exceptional or I'm brilliant to be given a modicum of your lecturing abilities. Like, I don't understand, and that was frustrating. But you get a work done, you finish it, and you get out of there. But it's just like, why do I have to prove myself as a person for you to do your job? If I could talk about my experience with race and microaggressions, not just from professors, but even within my peers. Like, there's a reason why I couldn't make any white friends, or I don't have any white friends from my time on campus, because trust me, people, that ain't gonna be a separate video. Let me know if y'all want to hear about my other experiences with racism and race while living in the UK. Leave your comments about any experiences you've had, what you think about my stories. Was I being hypersensitive, or like was there really some racism going on? Let me know what you think. Like this video, share it, don't forget to subscribe, and until next time, you guys have been watching CharisMarieTv. Until next time.